Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session. So, my name is Nikki Kimball. I'm part of the education team here at Just Too Easy. I'm an educational consultant, and today's session is an advanced webinar. So, this is a follow on session to our beginner and teacher tool sessions. So, let's do, as always, a little bit of session housekeeping. I am scheduled for a 4:30 finish. Questions can be asked as we go along, so thankfully I've checked the chat. The chat's working this week, so that's good. So you can pop questions in the chat. I do have it open on my second screen, which is why I keep glancing across, so I will keep that open. So please feel free at any point to ask me any questions, and I will intermittently check. I will be doing a Q&A session at the end of the training as well, so if there's anything that you want to know, you can put me on the spot and ask me then. And this session is being recorded and will be made available through our YouTube channel, which is Just Too Easy TV. Now, in terms of what we're going to cover in today's session, I'm just going to give a little refresher on what we covered in the previous two sessions, and I will show you where you can access those. And then we're really going to focus on some Just Too Easy tools and activities. So I'm going to show you how to upload and share files, which is a very simple process, but one that often gets overlooked. We're going to look at, in no particular order, JIT Mix, JIT Animate. So I've shoehorned that in this afternoon because I just thought I haven't covered it anywhere else, and I love teaching using animation. So I've popped that in there. Then we're going to look at JIT Branch, which is our branching database tool. And then I'm going to give you a J2 code overview, and also adding and sharing resources in the library, which is a really important part and one that we're encouraging teachers to engage with if they so wish. And then, as I said, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end, and then I'm going to show you where you can access further support from the team. Right, first of all, accessing Just Too Easy, just a gentle reminder, hopefully you already know, but we are a cloud-based system, cloud-based learning platform, and we are accessible via any device, anywhere. Now, this is our landing page. This is j2e.com. This is our login area. So you can go to j2e.com. I know a lot of you are joining us from managed services such as C2K, Hub, and potentially Glow, some of our Scottish schools. So we do have buttons here that you can click. So EA, that is our C2K colleagues out there. LGFL, that's for the London schools. Hub for my Welsh schools, and Glow for my Scottish schools out there. So you can click these and then use your managed service credentials to log in there. Now, alternatively, if you are a manual or an individual school, you will have been given a school name, a username and a password, and that is where you can input that information there. We are also available within all of those managed services. So within C2K, we are in the My School area. You can click the View All, and we're under the Online Learning tab. And also Hub and Glow, you'll find those on your launch pads as soon as you log in under Just Too Easy. Okay, so hopefully you can get logged in. So the first hurdle done. Now, just a little quick refresher, just in case you haven't been to the previous webinars, don't worry, you will still be able to engage with this webinar, even if you haven't. But in the introductory session, so this is in YouTube under our webinars playlist, we looked at the Launchpad overview, JIT Write and J2 Create, sharing content with other users, accessing your My Files and Pupil Files, using learning conversations for assessment for learning, easy access options with your QR codes, an overview of J2 Journal, and a resource library overview. Okay, so that's what we covered in that one. So if you didn't see that is where you can access all of the sort of instruction options for all of those. We then followed that up with the teacher tool session. So in that, I looked at setting up teaching classes to make it easier to differentiate work and tasks, J2 stars, creating shareable tiles from the Launchpad, J2 message, J2 homework, and using J2 PDF to create editable worksheets. And as I said, that's available on our YouTube channel under Just Too Easy TV. So I'm just going to quickly show you that. So I've got a nice clickable link here on my Launchpad. So this is Just Too Easy TV. You'll find those webinars here. I'm losing my voice already. This is just not good. So webinars 24, 25, and you can see we've got lots of webinars. I do at least one, if not 2 or 3 per week. As we scroll along, there's our introductory training and our teacher training. Our teacher tools training is a bit further along. We've also got our live lesson recordings, which I will reference. So these are a slightly different concept in that they're for playing at the front of your class, so putting on your panel or your interactive whiteboard and you and your class following along. So we've got some nice ones coming up next week, which I'll highlight to you. So that's where you can access all of that content on our Just Too Easy YouTube channel. Right, enough of the chat. Let's look at some actual tasks. So uploading content, this is something we get asked by schools quite a lot. And there are 2 options for uploading content. So you can go from the Launchpad, we've got our upload button. Okay, so you can click that. I'm going to show you in a second. And there's also a Dropbox in your My Files. So it really depends on your starting point. If you've already got your My Files open, then you can use that method. If you're coming from your Launchpad, you can use the upload button, which is here. So it's this blue tile, may well be in a slightly different space on your Launchpad, but we can click that. And it is a drag and drop facility if you wanted to. So you can open up your hard drive and then just drag things in like that, and that will open that. Alternatively, you can click this button that says choose files, and that's going to open exactly the same space for you. So that has opened up my hard drive and I can pop things in. Now that will work with any device. So that will work with an iPad, Chromebook. It doesn't have to be a laptop. It might work slightly differently on iPad, where you click the choose files and it will prompt you to choose whether you want to take a photo in or whether you want to access the photo library. So that is the only difference. Now the alternative, as I said, within our My Files, if you've already got that open, you can drag things into this Dropbox here. Okay, so again, to do that, I'm just going to open up my hard drive on my File Explorer. And I am going to drag in this PDF here. So I'm just going to click, drag, and I can drop it onto this space here within my files, or I can drop it into the Dropbox. Both will work in exactly the same way. And there we go. There is my PDF. Now that will work with any file format. So it could be a Google Docs, it could be a PDF, a video, a soundbite, an animation, whatever it is, you can add that in for the students into your My Files. Now we can share these files as well. So I could share this PDF. Now PDFs are slightly different, and in fact I'm going to do this quickly. I hadn't planned it, but so PDFs as they stand are quite sort of they're static documents. You can't do anything with them, so they're pretty useless on a digital device because they are designed to be sort of printed or to be unchanged, to remain unchanged. So that's why we implemented J2 PDF. So if you are using PDFs, all you have to do is upload it into your My Files. Then you can open up J2 PDF here. And I mean, I can drag that PDF onto here as well. I don't have to upload it into My Files, but it does make it a little bit easier sometimes. So I can click this button that says Open PDF, and that's going to sort of open up my options for loading into J2 PDF that I've already got in my Files. So there's that postcards writing. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to add that in. And there we go. So what that has done is stitched that PDF to a J2 create page. So that is now editable. So I can start writing on it if I wanted to. So for example, this might be an activity that I want my students to do. Maybe we're looking at writing postcards as part of our literacy curriculum. So what I need to do is I'm going to save that as a postcards writing activity. So I'm going to save it. There we go. Now this is a multi-page PDF, which might have been sort of oversight on my part. So it will save each page. So just be careful if you're doing things like SATs revision documents that are sort of 20 or 30 pages long, that process can take a little while. Okay, so I have created a worksheet for my students there. So that was really quick and easy, as you can see. So from my file, so that is the static PDF and this is the editable version now. So to share this with my students, now this is the slightly clunky way of doing it. I am going to show you the easier way to do it. But I just thought I'd show you both options and then you can choose whichever one suits you and your class. I can go to this and click on this little, I'm going to scroll in, this little green circle with the white eye. Okay, and this is where we can do things like link it to a QR code. So we can generate a QR code directly into that document, and we can share it. So I'm going to click share, and then you've got this drop down. Again, I'm going to zoom in so you can see this little drop down arrow here. So I'm going to click this. It's going to give me all my options. Now I'm going to share that with my class. Now I can share that with multiple classes. So I've got my teaching classes options, my users. So I could share with individual users if I wanted to. Or there's the all classes, so that will show me all the classes in school. So I could share that with class 1 and class 2, for example. So, you know, maybe I'm working with some composite classes, so I can do that. And there we go. So that is how you can share with the students. Now, the reason I say it's a little bit clunky, and you know me, I'm very honest with you, is because the students, to access that shared document, and there is an easier way of doing it, but I'm showing you this way first. They go to the shared files. And what I would recommend you get them to do is to tick this box that says list files. Okay, and they can click on the postcards. So that is ready to go. So they can have a go, they can click edit. So we could say, dear mom, for example. And because I've shared it, the students, they can save that. They don't have to retitle it. They can just save. That's going to save that version to their My Files now. So you as a teacher can access that in their pupil file. So that's how we can share, they can edit, and they can save, and you can access that as a teacher. So that's the first way. The other way is to share it via the library. So I'm going to do a little sort of talk about the library first, and then I'll show you how to share. So the library, I've just realised I've forgotten to change that logo there. The library is full of teacher-made content. So there's about 2,500 resources in there, and it's growing all the time because the ed team mostly spend time creating resources for you guys and pop them in there. Now, we are strongly urging teachers to consider, when you make resources, to think about sharing them and publishing them, because that means other teachers can use those resources in their teaching. But this is also a great way of sharing with your class as well, so you don't have to publish them. So there's two uses, okay? What we will say is, please, if you are thinking of publishing to the community and allowing other teachers around the world to use your resources, please don't add copyrighted products such as Twinkle resources or Sparklebox. I know that's generally not allowed anyway, but anything that's made by someone and copyrighted, we can't have those on our community. You're more than welcome to add them and not publish them, of course. So let's have a look, shall we? So the library is here. Okay, so this is the community resources. So you can see a lot of them are made by us. If it's Mrs. Wilkes, Miss Kimball, Charlie or Mary, that is the ed team. But we do have some teachers that are choosing to share, which is fantastic. And in the library, you can search. So let's look for Christmas, for example, and hit enter. And that will bring up all of our Christmas resources. And you can filter according to age and subject and that kind of thing. Now, you may not have noticed, but there is a My Resources area here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in that writing postcards activity. So this is how we can create a resource. Okay, now I have to choose an age, so that might be my upper key stage 2s. You can choose multiple ages. You can tag against subjects, and again, that could be multiple, so it could be computing and English, might be geography as well. Then you've got some student instructions, so I'm just going to do this very quickly. Obviously, you spend a bit more time. Write a postcard, ... so you give more instructions than that. Then you add a student attachment. So this is what you want the students to do. Okay, so you've got options here. You can take photos, videos, add in links. So maybe you're doing a research project. So it might be for this postcards activity, I might have a fact page about Paris, for example, if they're writing a postcard from Paris, where they have to read, the local landmarks and then include that information in that writing activity. So you can add links and template files. And then I'm just going to look in my files. And there is that postcard writing activity. You can add multiple files to this. So it might be that you've got an example document where you've got, a well-written postcard. It might be you've got a success criteria that you want them to follow, or a rubric. So you can add multiple files. And then this bit is optional. So you've got teacher notes and teacher attachments and tags. So teacher notes, I just usually explain that as it's, things that would help a teacher to understand maybe what that activity entails. Maybe you want to put some extension activity suggestions in there. For the teacher attachments, you might have a marking sheet. So if it is, something that has got answers and questions and answers, it could make it just a bit easier for a teacher if there's a marking sheet. And then tags, that's, keywords that you think someone might look for. So postcards, writing frame, key stage 2, for example. So these are just words that someone else might look for. And then we can save that activity. Now, as I was saying, this can be an easier way of sharing with your students, especially the younger students, because what we can do from here, so I've created that activity, I've got my instructions, so it's all in one place. So I can share that with my class now. So I just click share, find my class or my users, highlight that, and that is now shared with my class. So if I go back to Lottie, so remember that first way, she had to go into the shared file, she had to tick list files and then open that activity. It was just the activity on its own. There was no instructions, there was no wraparound context for what she should be doing. Whereas this method, all she does is she goes to the library, and there's that postcards activity. It's got the instructions and it's got the activity. It may have multiple files in there. Remember, if you've got your not marking scheme, but your success criteria or your rubric or all of those, she's got those all in one place. She doesn't have to keep, looking in the shared files to open other files. And again, the same as we did with the other shared file, she can click on that and it's a PDF. So she can say, "Dear Dad," this time, and she can click save, and that's going to save that version into her My file. So she's got those 2 versions. So that's how you can share with your class. So that stays internally. And students will only access content when it's been handpicked and shared by a teacher. So you share these activities. When you're ready to stop sharing, you just click on share again and just untick that class, and that removes that out of their library. So they, once they've done it, it doesn't clutter up their library basically. But this is the step you need to do if you are happy for other people to use that particular activity. So other teachers around the world. So we can click publish. Okay, it's just going to give you a little pop-up about, please don't use copyrighted things, basically, and that you kind of allow us to share it within the community library. So you click continue. That will then have to be moderated by a member of the education team, and then it will lie within the community. So I'm just going to look for postcards, and there we go. Once it is moderated by one of us, it will then sit within the resource library for other teachers to use. So that is a great way of sharing content just with your class. So remember, you don't have to click that publish. If you just want to share it with your class, you want them to access it, you can pop it in the library and just don't press that publish button. But if you are happy for teachers to use it, then please just have a think about pressing that publish button. Just don't use any copyright, especially Twinkle. Twinkle's the bane of our lives because they're fantastic resources, but we're not allowed to host them within our library for obvious reasons. I don't think Twinkle will be too happy. Okay, that took a little longer than I thought it was going to. So we're going to look at JIT animate now. So these are just two examples of, so this is a live lesson that I did a few weeks ago. So this is in YouTube. It's the Titanic, obviously, hitting the iceberg and sinking. So that was made in JIT Animate. And this one we're doing next week, on Tuesday, in fact. And it will be available on demand following the live session. So it will be a Christmas themed animation, and we'll have, you know, the snow falling and Santa flying, and it'll be really nice. So let's have a very quick look. I'm just going to close some of these tabs down. Here we go. So animate is within our JIT toolkit. So JIT is a combination of it's 7 tools and mix, which we're going to look at in a second. And animate is the lovely pink page here. So I am planning on doing a much more comprehensive animation training session in January. So this will be a very quick overview, but I am going to revisit it in January, where we'll spend sort of 45 minutes looking at the basics, how you would teach it at a very basic level, and then how you progress those skills as you go through school. So I am just going to do this on a very basic level. So let's stick with Christmas, because, you know, it's coming. We've got all of our backgrounds that we can use. So I've scrolled through that quite quickly. So you can see we've got the desert, the sea, the jungle, space. So there's lots of opportunities to tie this in with your curriculum, if you're, you know, topics that you're doing in class. I'm just going to scroll down, and we've got Christmas, Halloween's in there. So there's lots of seasonal ones. So I'm just going to use this Christmas template. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it snow. So the first thing is you really need to think about whether you need anything in the background that you want to change. So if you want to add to the background, just remember that those characters will not be able to be moved. So you really need to sort of have a think about what you want to move and what you don't. So for example, I might want a snowman here, and then I want my snowflakes falling from the sky. So my snowman's not going to move. So what I can do is I can click on the background at the bottom. So I've got my blue square. So that's showing me that I'm editing my background now. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. You can draw and use your paint tools, same as, you know, you use with paint. So you've got your fill options. So we could, let's make the sky a bit darker. So we've got our color wheel. We can make that much darker. Click OK. Use the fill tool and I can fill my sky. So you can still use all your paint functions here. If you're feeling really ambitious, you could get the children to draw an animation. Now that is quite high level skill. I would recommend that you use clip art first, and sort of manage how, or sort of understand how to move a clip art in an animation before you move to hand drawn. It's very difficult. I don't think I tried hand drawn animation. And then we're going to choose our characters. So we've got our Christmas clip art. You can click on this word here, and you've got different clip art libraries that you can choose. So there are some letters in there, speech bubbles, fairy tales, dinosaurs. So there's lots and lots of opportunities to tie this in with your topic. I'm going to choose Christmas, and I'm going to choose my snowman. So there we go. So I can make my snowman. I'm going to make him a bit bigger. And I'm going to add him into the middle of my screen. So I'm just going to click and stamp him onto my screen. Now, of course, I could add more, but for the purpose of speed today, I'm just going to have that as my one static character. So remember, my snowman is not going to move. So that's it. I've edited my background. So then I'm going to draw your attention to the frames we've got at the bottom. So these are just pictures, essentially. And the idea with animation is that you want your characters to move just a very slight amount with each frame. Okay, so the smaller the movement, the better the animation is going to be. I can guarantee the first time you use this as a teaching tool, the children will, you know, stamp it over here in frame 1, then over here in frame 2, then over here in frame 3. Let them do that. Let them see how awful it looks. And that's when you can start fine-tuning how they can animate and make it look good. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our first frame, and we've got our sort of tools here. Okay, now I am going to choose some snowflakes which are in this Christmas library. They're quite far in, so I'm just, there we go. Okay, and obviously these are going to be too big, so I'm going to make them much, much smaller. You can do this with white paint dots as well if you want to, but I quite like these snowflakes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stamp these sort of sporadically over the screen in my frame. Not too many because it can get a little bit much when we're trying to animate them. And there we go. So then we move to our frame 2. And what you'll see is my snowflakes from the previous frame. We've got kind of ghost snowflakes, can you see? So the technical term for this is called onion skinning, which the kids always think is absolutely hilarious. Onion skinning. So it just means that you can kind of see where the character or characters, so our snowflakes are our characters, were in the previous frame. So it makes it much easier for placement of the character in the next frame. So if you're working with, smaller children, you can just get them to stamp again in the random places. If you're working with older children, that's when you can start to get them to be a bit more strategic with their placement. So for a snowflake, you want it falling down. So you're going to place these snowflakes just slightly underneath that onion skinning of the previous snowflake. Okay, and I'm just going to do this very quickly. You don't have to be precise, but vaguely somewhere underneath that snowflake is going to look quite nice. And then you go to the next frame and we're going to do the same thing. So again, I'm just going to do this very quickly. This is actually easier when you're on a touch screen device than it is with a mouse, because the kids can just kind of click in that space underneath. There we go. And bear with me, I just need to get to frame 6 and then we will save and move on to JITmix. So there we go. Frame 5, I'm almost there. I just need to show you how to add in an additional frame. And this is something that we're going to cover in next week's Animate live lesson. So I've got my 5 frames. To add another frame, I'm just going to click this little green plus button. So that's going to add another frame, and then you're just going to do it one more time. Now, a good animation, really, you're talking about probably between 30 and 50 frames, really. Obviously, for the younger children, that might be a bit much. But that would be what I would be aiming for. I have had classes where we've done 200 frames, obviously not in one lesson. That was a half-terms project, and they all created their own little scene of Jack and the Beanstalk, and that was just phenomenal what they created, but it did take a very long time. So now I can press play on my animation. I can see what that looks like, and it is on a loop. So you can change the playback. So this little button, again, I'm going to zoom in because it's not particularly obvious. This button can allow you to change how that goes. So we've got, this is just play from one end to the other. We've got, this is play from front ways and then back ways. So we could have the snowflakes then rising back up to the top, or you can loop it. So I normally keep it on loop, but it really depends on what the theme of your animation is. But there we go, very simple animation. It might take your kids a while. So if you need a free afternoon, you can get on with some stuff. Show them how to do this and then leave them to it. So that is our animate. Now you can add, I say you can add sounds. You can, you've got the record function at the top. So what I've done previously is, I've recorded, maybe I've played something on one device and recorded it. This is designed for sound recording, like just narration. So the child talking over the top. But you can tie it in, if you've got one iPad that's playing, I don't know, Jingle Bells, and you hit the record on this, and that's how you would add some sound. But it's not really designed to have any sound per se. But you just hit that record button and hit the record, and that will attribute a sound there. Then all you do is you name your file. So Christmas animate snowman. There we go. And then they click the save button. Now what I like about all the JIT tools is they get that saving circle and it grays out the saving button. So they know that something's happened. They're not left in that kind of, oh, has it saved? Has it not? They don't click the save button 20 times because nothing's happening on screen. They get that feedback. And then lastly, you've also got the option up here, and again, I'm going to zoom in, to export as a GIF. So what that means is if I press that, it's going to export it as a little video format. So I'll show you the difference now. So in my files, we've got my Christmas animate. So that will open up that working file so the children can, between each session, so maybe they're doing this over 2 or 3 lessons, they can save and then come back and they can, go to that last frame, add another frame, keep animating. And this is what the GIF looks like. So you can see it's just exported that as a, little animation. And the only problem with that is it does pixelate a little bit. Okay, but what you can do instead from the working file, we can go to the green eye, and we've got this option to open in view mode. So that might be a better alternative. So that is a nicer view. And again, if we press play, it works in exactly the same way. So that is there now. We've just added that in the last few months. So that's the green circle, and you go to open in view mode. Okay, so that is JIT Animate. As I said, we've got these live lessons. This one's next week. This one's already recorded and ready to go in YouTube under our live lesson recordings. It's a Titanic themed paint, write, J2 create activity. And I will be doing further animation training next term. Okay, let's have a think about JIT Mix. So JIT Mix sits within JIT. It's slightly different from the other tools within JIT in that it is an ebook wrapper for the other tools. So it's all around creating ebooks. So of course those could be cross-curricular. It allows you to choose different page layouts initially, and then you can add different JIT content. So that'll make more sense in a second. You can use accessibility tools such as text-to-speech and word lists within any writing within JIT Mix. You can save and you can open as view only, which we've just had a quick look at. So let's have a look at Mix, shall we? So Mix is this one. It's kind of a grey screen, and it opens differently to the other JIT tools. Now, I would recommend this is probably used with your, I'd say Key Stage 2. Some year 2s might be able to use it at a very basic level. So certainly your P3s. So, but I would say for sure your year 3s, P4s onwards. So we've got our different page layouts. So the first thing they do is they think about which page layout they want. So this is just the tool on its own. We've got this one that allows you to have 4 windows of tools. That makes sense in a second. This one is the tool and some writing along the right hand side, and this one is the tool and the writing underneath. Okay, so you choose the page layout first. And then this is where people come unstuck. Then you have a think about which tool it is that you want on that page. So this is a blue page, so this is a paint page. If I wanted an animate page, I have to click, 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 click until I find the pink page. So that will just allow me to animate with text underneath. If it was turtle that I was looking at, I would just keep clicking until I get to that lovely green page. Okay, so I'm going to add in that animation that we've just done. So I just, in fact, we'll do it with this one. There we go. So I've got my animate page with some writing underneath, and then I hit tick. So here we go. We've got our animate page and then our writing box underneath. So I can click in my writing box. I've got my writing tools that we have in JIT Write. So we looked at that in the beginner session. Okay, so you've got all your text font, color, and your word lists. So that's all got text to speech built into it. And I've got this animate box, so I can click and I can start animating here. Now I can use this like I did with animate previously. Okay, so I've got this little asterisk. So that, again, this is where I think people come unstuck as well. This asterisk button at the top of this page, that allows us to choose the template backgrounds that we had in animate. Okay, so we can click on that Christmas one, and we could create that animation that we've just done, just straight into JitMix. Okay. The other option, if you wanted to, if they've created something in the standalone tool, so if they've created something in animate, so imagine we've done that animation in the previous lesson, and this is our follow-up lesson. I can use this button here. So this is the load button. Okay, this is a folder on the right hand side. So I'm going to click that, and that is going to open up all of my animation files, so all of my animate files that I can add onto this page. So I've got my Christmas animation that I've just done. You've got shared files. If someone shared files with you, you can add those in, but you've also got the pupil files. So this, additionally to using it as a pupil content creation tool, this is quite a nice teacher tool in that you could create a pupil workbook. So all pupils have created a Christmas animation, for example. You could have 30 pages with each child's animation, and then you could QR code that and send it home as part of a newsletter, or you could put it on a display board and it's just one book with each page, or you could tie it in that they do a scene each and write a collective class book. So there's lots of uses for JitMix. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to use my files, and I'm going to click that animation that we've just done. So there we go. There's our lovely snowy snowman. And I could have a bit of text that goes with this. So I could say, I don't know, it was a snowy day at the North Pole. Oh, dear me. There we go. So you could tie this into your literacy focus, if you're looking at creative writing or improving writing, or they've got their word lists here so they can listen to any of these words that they need to add in. So they can just hover over and click on that. There we go. Hopefully you heard that. Once they've written something on their page, they've also got text to speech in the top right. And there we go. Okay. So yeah. And then, of course, they can click Add Page at the top. And that will take them through the process again. So this time I might want a paint page. So maybe they've done, an illustration for, this is maybe a Christmas story that they're writing, and they've done a painting. So let's click the tick box. And again, this works in exactly the same way. So you've got your writing box, your drawing box. So if you wanted to draw straight onto the page, you've got the asterisks here. So that will open up your templates. You've also got your load button. So if they've maybe created something in Paint and saved it in a previous lesson, they can add that into a mixed document. So we have, so let's add in this Christmas image. There we go. Now a bit of a shameless plug. And then they can write underneath in that text box, and they can keep going. So they could add another page. So this is a nice way of maybe cutting down on teacher workload as well. Bear with me, I will explain myself. So if your children are, each week they're doing 1 or 2 ICT lessons a week, that is quite a lot of content to have in their file to then have to evidence, however it is that you're evidencing it, whether you are sending it to the journal, whether you are printing QR codes, whether you are, heaven forbid, printing it out and sticking it in a book. Please don't do that. If they're doing 2 a week over a term, that's 14 pieces of work. So instead of doing that, maybe have a think, especially if you're working with the older children, of them putting it as a page into a mixed document each week. So then a half term's worth of work could be one JitMix book. And then you QR code to that JitMix book at the end of that term and have that as evidence. Okay, so just have a think about it. So this would save in exactly the same way as we've done. So Christmas mix book. There we go. And then they hit save. Does a lovely savey. It grays out. And of course, you can send that straight to Journal. So for those of you that are using Journal, you can publish that to the Journal. Parents can then see it if you have the parent portal involved. So there we go. Okay, and the JitMix books look really nice in the view mode. So this is what it looks like. They can turn the pages. The animations will work. The text-to-speech will work as well, so top right. And we can click that and it will stop. So yeah, that's what it looks like, and that's what it will look like on the journal as well. Okay, so there's another example, is a Gruffalo retell with the children drawing their own Gruffalo. Okay, we're going to look at JIT branch now. So JIT branch is fantastic for creating branching databases. It certainly features in the English curriculum, maths curriculum in year 3. So I suspect in the Northern Irish curriculum, I think it's P4, P5. So you can create branching databases by adding data and then using sorting questions to sort the data, play the database, and then you can add additional data as well. So these are just 2 examples. So we've got a very simple mini beasts database where, you know, we've got 7 pieces of data here and some questions. And then we've got a more complicated one. So this is a guess who game using faces. So you could use photographs of the children. They could use questions to sort themselves. Just an idea. So let's have a look, shall we? So I'm going to go again. I'm going to go to my JIT. I'm going to go to branch, and you can add a template background if you want to. My personal preference is to not have a template background, but they're there. I quite like just having a blank background. I find it just lends itself nicely to data. And then you choose which data you want to add in. So link this into your topic. You know, it could be fairy tales, could be animals, could be Christmas characters. I know that features in our advent calendar in the library. It could be food and drink. Now I'm going to stick to what I know, and I'm just going to use animals because it's easiest. But there are all the clip art libraries that you would like to use are there. And then we just click on the data that we want to add. So I'm going to add in a bird, and let's add in some sort of sea creature. There we go. Now, if you add something by mistake, in fact, I'm going to get rid of my badger. I'm going to hover over it. I've got my little bin, so that will take that out of my tree. This is what this is called, in your tree. Now you do have alternative options. You can add things in your My Files. So you could draw things in Paint, save them, and then add them into the branching database. Shared files, and you've also got the option to search for items. So if you're doing a particular theme or topic, you could add those in. Now, lastly, we have a simple mode and an advanced mode. So the simple mode is just the image on its own. The advanced mode allows you to add a title and a description. So the description could be used as sort of a follow-up activity. So if you're revisiting this, maybe, you know, further up the school, maybe your P6s and 7s, maybe you want to incorporate this into your science curriculum. They could do a research project, for example, find some defining features of each of these objects or items, and then use those to form the questions. Okay, so it could be, I don't know, how long they live, their habitat, I don't know, body temperature, whatever it is, height, weight, whatever it is that you want, and they can add those into the description. But for today's purposes, I'm going to use the simple mode. And then I go to sort, and I've got my question here. So I'm going to say, do or can I fly? So you're going to drag the item. So you're going to click and drag the item that it applies to on this side and the items that it doesn't apply to on the right-hand side. Then we're going to click OK. And we're going to form another question. So we're going to say, can I jump? Now a lion probably can jump, can't it? So we're going to click yes and drag it over here, and then obviously my jellyfish can't. Click OK, and you keep going. So we're going to say, am I a carnivore? We go yes and no. I'm hoping a kangaroo isn't a carnivore. And then we're going to click OK, and there is our branching database. Okay, now you can add additional items. So if you wanted to, you can click play. You might be thinking of a different bird, so we want to input a bird. So we're going to follow this through. So can I fly? Yes. Is this answer correct? We're going to say no. Do you want to add a new item? So we're going to click yes. And that is when you can go back to your clip art library. I'm going to try and find an owl somewhere. There he is. And then click OK. And that is when we can add in another branch. So let's say, am I nocturnal? And drag the one that applies to there and the one that it doesn't apply to on the other side. And there we go, that's added another branch to our tree. So that's branching database. So hopefully that's been helpful. Then of course you would rename and click save. Now I haven't really sort of talked about the record function, but this is a nice way of capturing additional information. So for example, they've created this branching database. They could record what they've learned, how they've done it. You know, if they had to do this on post-it notes first, they could talk about that. So that's a great way of capturing that kind of wraparound knowledge and understanding without having it written down. So that's a really useful tool. And then we click save. It does the savey, it grays out. So it's very consistent in JIT. The interface stays very, very similar throughout. Okay, so that is JIT branch. Now we're going to talk about my favorite, J2 code. It's not my favorite. So J2 code is a collection of 3 tools. Now I do have live lessons recorded for all 3 of these. So I did for National Coding Week in September, we did a year 1, 2, which is P2, P3. Yeah, turtle activity. We did a visual activity for your P4s and 5s and a logo activity for your P6s and 7s. So those are all in YouTube recorded, and I think we might have another couple coming up soon. So let's have a very quick look before we finish up. So turtle, here we go. Again, it's within JIT, and it offers us some templates. I'm sorry, my son is just peppering me with, I'll just have to wait. So we've got different templates that they can follow. Now these are designed to be followed in order. So the Big Bad Wolf is the easiest one, and then we scroll through and Cinderella is the most difficult. So you can click, and that is going to create a pre-populated template. Now the children can create their own games in this. That's much higher level than potentially your Key Stage 1s, but it might be a nice activity to do with your older students that can then create a game for the younger students to have a go at. So that can be quite nice, because then they also get the feedback. So you could have the older children designing a turtle game, playing it with the younger students, maybe getting a feedback sheet, and getting the younger students to maybe offer 2 stars and a wish of why they think, or what they think could be improved in the game. So there you go. Let me know if you have a go at that. We'd love to hear about it. So we've got our sprite here. So we've got our Big Bad Wolf. Again, the same as with branch, we've got a simple mode and an advanced mode. So the simple mode, the sprite will move with every click of the button. You can see my algorithm is building up here. So it is designed that the sprite hits the houses in the correct order. And there we go. And they will fall down as he kind of passes over them. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can manipulate these algorithms. So I can click and drag and reorder them. So that's great for your debugging element of the sort of ICT curriculum. So obviously programming is one aspect, but logical reasoning and debugging is another aspect. And we can hit play. So let's see. So there we go. My pen, brilliant. Okay. Now with the advanced, they have to predict where it's going to end up. So it won't move. So if I click forwards, it won't move. Now what makes this a little bit easier is if I zoom in, you probably can't see particularly well, but there are grids. So that really helps with them sort of being able to predict where it's going to end up. So I know he needs to move forward 1, 2 steps. So I need another forwards. Then he needs to turn this way. So that is right. And then he needs to go forwards 1, 2. and then you can check whether that's going to end up in the correct place. This is a nice skills progression from BBOTs. So if you're already using BBOTs in school, it's very similar. It's got the same directional buttons and functionality. So you could even have it as a carousel activity with some students doing BBOT, some students doing this on the board or on iPads, and doing other off-screen stuff. That's how I used to teach it. And it just helped me because I could sit and focus with the children doing it on screen as well. Worked really well. So that is Jit Turtle. The other thing that you could potentially do if you wanted to is to create a bugged game. So that's another way of developing those debugging skills, is to create an algorithm that really doesn't work. Maybe you've got your sprite going off the page or going off to the right, and they have to then work through those algorithms to figure out where it's all gone horribly wrong. So you could save that. Remember we shared earlier, so you could click the green eye and share it, or you could add it into the library and share it. The kids can access it, they can debug it, save it. Jobs are good. So you'd save using the save button, same as we have done in all the JIT tools. Okay, so that is Turtle. Visual is here. So this is just an example of what you can create. So when the sprite is clicked, so I have to click the sprite. There we go. Ho, ho, ho. So that's something that you could create. So this is just a background that I've added in and created a Santa sprite. So this is what it looks like at this time of year. Normally it has a penguin most of the rest of the time, and then I think at the middle of November we start using Rudolph. So Rudolph is our sprite. We can move our sprite around. You can add background. So we've got our sprite list up here, so we can add. You can change the sprite. So I'm just going to zoom in. So this little tab here, that is where you would change your sprite, how it looks. So we can click on that. So obviously we've got our reindeer. We don't want 2 reindeers. So what we can do is we can press this little plus button here. We've got lots of sprites to choose from. So we've got lots of costumes, animated sprites. There are letters. So that's a nice one that actually ties in quite nicely to a SEA task, which is the bouncing letters SEA task. And that's the live lesson that we did. So the children have their names, sort of letters in their name come sort of flying in or bouncing in. So that's a nice activity. But if I scroll down to the bottom, we've got our backgrounds. So this allows us to add in a background. Let's choose this one. So I'm going to click and click OK, and that's added that as a background. Now, because I've chosen it as a background, it's automatically loaded it, but you can choose different things. You've also got the option to web search, so it is quite a flexible tool. And then I'm just going to click back to my sprite one. Now, what I will show you is renaming, and this is part of the live lesson as well. I would highly recommend that you rename these sprites. Okay, I speak from experience because I'm going to rename that Rudolph, for example, and click OK, and I'm going to rename sprite 2 as background. Now the reason I highly recommend you do this is because I have had many children with broken hearts because they've spent an entire computing lesson programming the background and they get to the end and they press play on their game that they've spent an hour making and the background shoots off to the side instead of the sprite itself. And honestly, it breaks my heart because they get very upset. So yes, I digress, but just trust me in that. Spend some time just teaching them how to rename their sprites. So now we've got our character, we've got our control buttons, we've got levels 1, 2 and 3. They become increasingly more difficult, and then we can change things like, let's get rid of that. Okay, I'm going 3, there we go. I'm going to go to events, so things like when spacebar key is pressed, when the up arrow is pressed, when the sprite is clicked. So let's do that. Let's have when the sprite is clicked. I might have sounds. Ooh. Oh, let's try this. I haven't seen this before. Play sound effect. They add little things in without telling me, and it's play sound effects, animals. Let's see. I mean, someone's probably going to be shaking their head, but let's go for horse and continue. So let's see what happens. I've never done this before, but I'm going to click play. And so we programmed it when this sprite is clicked. So we click the sprite. How lovely. So we could have him moving at the same time. Now, I'm conscious of time. I have done I've done a live lesson. I've also done a whole coding webinar, and that is on our YouTube channel. So I will go into more depth with that, but that just gives you an idea of some of the capabilities of visual, and obviously you can save that into your My Files. So it is a nice activity to do. But there you go. And then we've got logo. So logo looks a little bit scary, but actually once you get your head around it, it's quite a nice tool to use. Again, the same as the other code tools, there are differing levels. So level 1 is a fantastic step on from Turtle, actually. So let's clear this and let's put on, let's not do that. Yeah, there we go. So you've got your up, your right, your forwards, your right, your backwards, your left. You've got go home, clear canvas, pen up, pen down. So all the same functionality as Turtle. So nice skills progression. Level 2 is slightly more difficult. And just imagine, let's just delete that. Let's go CS and play. There we go. So CS is clear screen. So that's slightly more function because it gives you the script so they can see what happens when they add in instructions. If we go forwards, it's giving me the shorthand, which is FD50. Right, so I'm going to make a square, forward, right, forward, right, forward, right. So I can press play and there is my square. The children can start manipulating things like the length. So let's go 100 and let's go 100 here and see what happens. So there we go, we've got a rectangle. So they can start manipulating that. And then when they get to level 3, that's when they really start changing things. So we can start using things like repeats. So repeat, and we've got square brackets. So repeats, you need to add in what you want to repeat. So I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to paste it into those square brackets and press play. So that's going to make me a bigger square. Okay. You could do things like change your pen color, clear screen, procedures. You've got some maths procedures here. So set X, X, Y, set Y, set X, Y, arc length, circle, radius. So you can start making lots and lots of different shapes. Now I am running out of time, so I'm going to move on, but there are some videos on our YouTube channel. There's also some help videos on within our help tile, which you might not notice, but is here. So if you just type in logo into that will bring up quite a few comprehensive activities that you can do with your class. Okay. So as I've been banging on about it, you're probably bored of me saying YouTube. That would be my first protocol. We've got over 200 videos on our YouTube channel, so they are all there. We've also got the help tile that I've just said, so that is full of written content. It does need updating a little bit. It is on my to-do list, so I'm going to do that in the next few weeks. But yes, please have a look at the YouTube channel when you can. So I'm going to see if there's any questions. Please feel free to add them into the chat whilst I'm just rounding up here. And don't worry if you don't have any questions. You don't have to add any questions, but just if you wanted to. So our contact details, if you want to get in touch with us, edteam@j2e.com. That comes through to Charlie, Mary and myself. So one of us will answer. We're on Facebook, so just too easy. We've also got a Facebook group going with a competition. So there's a paint competition in there that ends on Thursday evening. So that's Just Too Easy Teachers. So please feel free to apply to join for that. We're on X, formerly known as Twitter, so justtooeasy_com, and Just Too Easy TV, that is our YouTube channel. So please give us a like or a subscribe and you'll be notified whenever there is any new content. So it looks like there's no questions. I will hang around for a second or two, but thank you ever so much for joining us and giving up your free time. I hope that you've enjoyed the session and you've managed to take away at least something that you can trial with your kids. Please feel free to tag us on your social media if you do create any fantastic content. But hopefully I will see you for another webinar soon. So thank you very much, guys.